Lamandang Fujizen Dame Yang Changa Lo Ingange Lo Dendra Yenda Nanda Rasa Jenye and Danga Enji Sage and Yenye and Danga Rebond Randa Sebe Zara Mare Mendo Donga Geser Rozo Guanan Buje and Yellow Dojo Yandezo Dunda Shado Nemo Yellow Lege Jandron Donze Mare Muse and Donga Yogu Jenye Jenzeratinam Dene Joy so joy das Yande Lenzo and Yasen Tovim Juda Shada Junyin Gandhe Ming Se Jame Online Dilu Mara Mazanora Mazalaki Hamazana Dedin Maram Bazana and Engine Ginos again the mom and Barazan. Da da danger shone do ba ye lo ho be now zan do so am se da ren de ba jong se ji wa ran de na ya Long ba jiao yang jian yan nian ge men ba yang dong wa ren xiu wen sa yan de ze ge ren xi ri sen be ma jian ba ni shi sun se nu yang de den yan za so yuan de lang ma nong lai so wa wen de wo ye san ye nian ben teng jian se de jian zhun doi yang zai bo lo ye nam da sam ye ni de den zhen guan chang ji le ling bei xiang la so wa de zhang ba lai jian la bian me nang ba zhuan jia se a ze yang se jiao se Ba ba de den ben ma dong lian jia yang jian zi wang bo so and an gan de long jian be nan ba zhen jian nan xing de lang so jie re men den yan den ya zhen de lun zhen de ye xiao la so wan de Wang men jie yin ye bo zhang nian de sun san ye gun ye ma wo Rang zhen zhen ge ma san dong zhen ban za ye la me xiao la zo wan ye Nam mô ye tam ba le yin na lo dan de jin je dong de na me yin dan zhuo bong Ham jian gen dong dan jin chen den do Da también sempre capsu tene kurumban kunje ene yami kata tenjin nambe kang songba taktu ani ya kunje de ani también sempre tsalus.
So I request all of you that when you're listening to the Dharma, including right now, to adjust and fix your motivation and your behavior as well, according to what is taught, according to the instructions that have been given by the Buddha and also by the other masters in their treatises. So please adjust your motivation in that way now.
Kanji sembar tsuwe che dire name Tukdrup Barché Künsel Ngöndro he Ngöndro te chiden de la tene namba nga zam yoba re ambo Ngöndro tsikjeni liba Ngöndro kachen inba sumba Ngöndro nyamnen jeding dusen shiba Ngöndro ripchang tsoksa inchu ngaba Ngöndro yewa da che nga yore te nao ne ani kandaman su ngaba Ngöndro yewa kapsu re Ngöndro yewa na yang jaba Ngöndro tunji Ngöndro ngoshi Ngöndro sum yoba le kapsu baba ngoshi Ngöndro tres.
So the teaching today is on the preliminary practices for the Guru's heart practice, dispeller of all obstacles. And there are 5 general topics, 5 main topics for this teaching, which are the meaning of the phrase preliminary practices, the manner in which the preliminary practices are important, and the extensive, medium length, and concise preliminary practices, how the preliminary practices gather the accumulations and purify obscurations, and finally the different types of preliminary practices. And among the 3 different types of preliminary practices, the preliminaries of the material items, the preliminaries to the meditation session, and the preliminaries to the main part. We are now on the 3rd of those 3, the preliminaries to the main part.
Ngöndro te nang la, tene timong chi ngöndro nang, tene nangi ngöndro nyebe nang le, tene timong chi ngöndro te la, tene lodo namba shi yore, lodo namba shi nang ne, tene taza kazang kondo ta, taza nyeba bawa shu sin ne, taring kapsu paba ta, mitak ba shebe kapsu res.
So, there's 2 parts to the preliminaries to the main part, the outer common preliminaries and the inner uncommon preliminaries. And the outer common preliminaries consists of the 4 thoughts that reverse the mind, or the 4 thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara. And among those 4, we have finished the first, which is the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages. And now we're on the second, the teaching on death and impermanence.
아니 가상은 걔는 타전에 바꿔 콤바라와 다 타전에 바꿔 콤데 타전에 바꿔 베 게마 콤라 다 탄다 값습니다. 바 콤베 값으나 타저게 바꿔와데 아니 디디 공보레 스칙데다 삼로 땅데 타전에 바꿔와기 칙데다 삼로 땅데 타전에 바꿔와 디디 지젠 잠스 공보레스.
So just recently we all were practicing the meditation of the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages. And you were all meditating on that. And for that topic, the practice and the explanation, the meditation was fairly extensive and elaborate. But for this topic, the topic of death and impermanence, it's a little more concise, somewhat brief. So for this, you just meditate in a slightly more brief way, more concise way, while reciting the words, contemplate the words in the text that talk about death and impermanence, and meditate on it in a little bit more concise way, a little bit briefer way.
전에 가상 타전에 바꿔 미빠데 고명데 tene 치라레리 노봄라 다 단다 치라레리 고모바바스니 치다도 본보레스 치다스니 여러 이 치다도 본보레스 두바디.
And when we were going over the topic of the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages, you were all contemplating this in detail, going over each of the specific features of the topic. But for this topic on death and impermanence, it's more a general style. When you meditate on death and impermanence, you do it in a general way, kind of overall topic all at once, rather than going through each of the specific aspects.
간선나 단다 값을 미다고 줘라 다 미다고도 개바고 뭐라 핸디 타전에 바꿔와 디디 공부레스 다 디디 검초데 간다 공부레스나 마랑소 미식 워싱거나 미식 워싱바 소고고요나 더 미디기 밍 테네 미디기 빙자 테 미디 데사스네 레신도 정말 장부도 하고도 다디 정말 장사를 제라 제마 양들 장부면도 미디 통화 잠지 미디 데사 가와임바 미디기 파마빌야 가와요바 데사 가와임바 파마빌야 가와네 임바 정말 하고도 뒤지기나 뭐 대낭시지 공부를 해서 뒤지기 공부한데 지답도 공부한데.
So danda chiru mitagalabs
Marmare tende manando tajuni bakawa komdi chirdangi kono bomurada tanda.
danda
Wa chira bashin to komu marwa.
oh so
Ante pena music ngoshin basogu yana nyama tajuni bakawa nganzo mongbo mitiki ming hago tene mitiki desa hago mitiki pinja hago gora de hago de chirare re shin nganzo hago do. Tadi changma ngoshin ba char yongdi jema miti tokna yangyoro rimba shin to tigu gumida. Ko miti 통화 좀 miti kane yamba miti ki pinja kawa yoba changma hago gora.
oh
Yang kyo ming karire kyo desa kaware jigo gumindo
so
man chidestere chimigo chilame kwataonde miti thonga zamji tam mitse miti thanda sama shesar tajunye bago chigdi kwa zamji tenis tajunye bago chama nyamnen chesar
so actually what the Lama is saying is that it's after we have gone over the topic in a detail in all the specifics for some time and then understand it, and then after that point then we are able to just do the meditation in a more general way, like overall way. That's actually what he's saying. So since we've already gone over the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages in detail over all the different aspects, now we can, since we've already gone over that extensively, now we can just meditate in a more like an overview kind of general way. And so Lama gave the analogy of if you are getting to know a person, first you find out all the specifics about that person. It takes some time to go over all the details. What is their name? Where are they from? Who is in their family, and so on. So you take some time to go over those specifics of a new person. But then after you've done that, you kind of know the person, so you don't have to go over the details, but you will know, you can think of them in a general way, or should say, just by thinking of them in general, you will understand all of it. So that's the idea here as well.
tanda metabe kompa kapsare ten metabe khatsa kondo ngege ni metabe phen sambadang metabe nyami sambadang ni chek niba thela ten nganso ta metabe ge nyam sulen sul pomsul tela tene jwani tin na ne somde ji kon dogo dona yago yores shimba.
So as far as the teaching on death and impermanence, what we went over last time was this topics related to impermanence. This first of all, the benefits of contemplating impermanence, and then the faults or the harm that will come from not contemplating impermanence, and finally the manner in which one should carry out this contemplation, how one should contemplate impermanence, and that how one should contemplate impermanence consists of two aspects of application and three aspects of putting it into practice.
Tene kasamdo da phen de ane shapsul manda ni yeba te kondo shisimbare ta dring phen ngoi dikhandere sena ta mita ba kon ba yena tene phen de kayore sena tene mita ba kon ba yena ane tanda de son yoro tebe se de zhendi ji chokche tene chunyen nyamba ni tokba tokbe sherap ges tene son yores. Ogonda ta midaba gomba yena midaba la ngak chodang bicho yore ngak bicho dang bicho a midaba gomba yena kari gagu yore sene midaba gomba yena teni korwe chela shemban lo songra.
So as far as the meditation on impermanence, there are these three aspects that I went over last time. Yeah, there's those three aspects. And then there's another way to think of it is there's with the contemplation of impermanence, there's a set of things that are stopped or eliminated, and then there's another set of things which are accomplished for you. So it's among the things that are reversed or stopped. If you contemplate impermanence, then this will reverse your clinging and attachment to samsara.
아니 그렇지 된다는 신바도 바이나 되는 거 나서 되는 거서 오래 신발을 때네 신바 그렇지라 신발을 때네 되는 유명한 바지에 레드는 사우드웨어 대상화된 예받은 바 가우드거래 엔티티디 아니 가서 그래 다 각촉이라고 하면 아니 표현 각촉은 된 바스.
So if we reverse our clinging to samsara and reverse that attachment and clinging to the kind of this life in the samsara, then it has these great benefits because it is due to the clinging and attachment of just to the phenomena of samsara, to our life in samsara, is due to that clinging and attachment that we generate afflictions, the negative emotions, and then it's due to those afflictions and negative emotions, we accumulate karma. And this is, so all of that, all of those harmful process stems from clinging and attachment to samsara. So this will be stopped by the contemplation on impermanence. So this is also part of the benefit of impermanence, is that it will stop.
신바 도둑도 신바 가우도도 인디 표현 각촉이 된 바스 미다바 콤바이나 그렇지라 되는 신반도스.
So because our attachment will be reversed in this way, this is referred to as explaining the benefits in terms of what the contemplation will stop. So it's explaining the benefits of contemplating impermanence in terms of what it gets rid of or what it eliminates.
미다바 콤바는 표현 독촉이 된 바때나다 TBS에 전지지 초체 아니 준이년바도 베셰랍 계속 미다바 콤바이나.
And then for the other side of it, which is to teach the benefits of contemplating impermanence in terms of what it will accomplish. In the first place, it will generate faith in us, and then it will spur us on with diligence. It will increase our diligence, and then finally, it will help us to realize the nature of reality.
제한 파탄바 산디디 안보 철을 주비 미다바데 콤바이나 안보 철을 주비 규체 어르도 전지집에 잡체 아마 오살 추구도베 초체 소유.
So this is taught by Padamba Sangye, and he said if you meditate on impermanence, contemplate impermanence, first it will serve as the cause for you to properly enter into the Dharma, to fully enter into the Dharma. And then secondly, it will be like a kind of a whip to spur you on with diligence. And then finally, it will be, it will help you, it will aid you to realize the luminous nature of reality.
근데 다들 좀 바상지 정든 되기 미다바 보면 수인 참 대라는 정합에 따라.
And then the the Buddha, the Bhagavan Buddha, he said that he praised anyone who would meditate on impermanence.
제 탐제지 남나 방부제 초두주가 임바다 도시에 탐제지 남나 미타베 도시에 공부 초이노 송.
And he said, just as among all footprints, the footprint of the elephant is the kind of greatest footprint, in the same way, among all ideas or concepts, the idea of impermanence, the meditation on impermanence, is also the greatest possible contemplation.
제 경쟁 가래서는 미타바고 바테 때문에 탈침부인 비경제를 가르스나 아니 지당 안도 로돈 넘버시 공부를 로돈 넘버시 지당 갈침부를 대 나는 양때 미타바데 숙치야 갈침부를.
And this is because the contemplation on impermanence is so important. So if you consider all of the four thoughts that turn the mind from samsara, they're all actually important, but among those four, the contemplation of death and impermanence is especially important. It's more important than the others.
산지기 따오다다 차제 시숨디가 없었다고. 그제 담제 미타바 송도 당부 미타바 송도 같이 뭐 변전 거 당부 송거로.
Yeah, for example, when the Buddha taught the four seals of the Dharma, the first one of those is that all conditioned phenomena are permanent. So it also makes sense in that way that it's the first one that he taught there, the first out of those four. It's also due to the fact that it's important.
따오다다 차제 신남. 그제 담제 미타바 사지 담제 동아와 처럼 동시 담에바 냥년에 때바 시와스 송도. 전부 도시 미타바데 송도. 아침제.
And these four seals of the Dharma, that all conditioned phenomena are permanent, that all defiled phenomena are suffering, that all phenomena are empty and like a self, and that nirvana is peace. He taught impermanence as the first out of those four because it was so important.
산지기 가르송에서나 아니 산지기 진즉 샤리포다 뭔가포 저부터 이제는 쳐봐 왜장 처음이다 봐 렌치기 공부들 있나 렌들 쳐봐이나 처음이다 공부들 같이 인송
Sulachubu
샤리포다 뭔가포 저부터 이제단 말 쳐봐 보면
all those are.
아니 이다 봐 깨직 좀 봐도 아니 같이 인송.
And the Buddha also said that among his own disciples, Shariputra and Maudgalyayana, if you compare making great offerings to 100 monks that may be like equal to Shariputra and Maudgalyayana, if somebody was to make really vast offerings to 100 monks like that, really great practitioners, great monks, and compare that with meditating on impermanence just one time, the meditation on impermanence is actually far superior.
산지기 가르송에서나 미타바 공부이나 상계 탐제를 쳐봐인 송을 미타바 공부이나 상계 탐제지 아니 옥중화인 송을 미타바 공부이나 되네 상계 탐제지 리된바인 송을 미타바 공부이나 되네 상계 탐제지 진실로그여의 송을.
And he also said, the Buddha also said, if one meditates on impermanence, this is like worshiping and making offerings to all the Buddhas. And if one meditates on impermanence, this is actually being relieved and saved by all the Buddhas. And if one meditates on permanence, this is actually equivalent to the Buddha's giving you a prophecy about your future enlightenment. And if you meditate on all the Buddha, if you meditate on impermanence, this is also being blessed by all the Buddhas.
Termasane pasang kondo ngegi chinambanata midachiwa pumbai na teni karsegorsena. Tazunye bakawa teni tongse micheba teni bachigires pardo teni tazur deeting teni temperature to be top temperature la zungires. Tazur deeting ingbol be top temperature la zungires. Tamanteni temperature la teni tweetafto 아니 냠nen치도 보게 되네 윤매치바 냠nen치도 받는데 차그레 슬라우선 다디 칸네 단네 출토용 레슨에 샤고이나 되네 바르도 전리게베 짝체 생기다 어디 차용 걸 되네 출통교레스
So just recently when I was teaching about the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages, I taught you the benefits of that contemplation, which were, first of all, that you will really not disregard this opportunity that you have. You understand the preciousness of the opportunity. And secondly, from that contemplation, we will undertake the practice of the Dharma, which is the way to make this precious human life meaningful and put it to its true purpose. And then finally, by contemplating the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages, we will be able to practice continually and kind of complete and perfect the practice and practice in a really a genuine way and without interruption. And so this is equivalent to what talking about here with the impermanence serving as the kind of a whip that will inspire your diligence and make you more diligent. So this is actually just a brief explanation of the benefits of contemplating death and impermanence. There are actually many, many more benefits.
미답을 포엔 공부기 포엔 데라 드는 네바께 바르세발라 가르고 요래 세납 미답바 마본베기 이미 가셔보고요. 미답바 마본베기 이미 셔바이나 미답바 공부 포엔 데라 드는 네바침부게요.
So such are the benefits of contemplating impermanence. But in order to kind of enhance or increase the power of understanding the benefits of contemplating impermanence, we have to contemplate the faults of not contemplating impermanence. So it's through contemplating the faults of not contemplating impermanence that effect of contemplating the benefits will be increased.
가장 먼저 콘트 시인 체서라 미지기 같은 이임바디 시고구요나 단보 라니 기둥아디 시고구요레스 동알디 셰바이나 미디기 같은 데 텐두거와 오테나싱 회엔딘 뉴바 탱고구요나 테니 니메디 시고구요레.
So as I explained last time that for example to really appreciate the kindness that somebody has shown you when somebody helps you out, to appreciate the benefit they've brought to you and appreciate them and their kindness, you have to understand the suffering that they have saved you from. You have to understand your own suffering and realize that they have saved you from that suffering. So it's the same way here, in order to get the full effect and increase the power of understanding the benefits of impermanence, contemplating impermanence, we have to then contemplate the faults of not contemplating impermanence.
미탁바 마범나 테니 Nibagari yoresena, midagba magombayina, sedele shimbajigereso. Midagba mangobayina, teni tajur chusustangereso. Midagba magombayina, teni jiwachima korola kene dongon yurumbu nyongereso.
So, as for the falls of not contemplating impermanence, if we don't contemplate impermanence, then we will have a lot of clinging and attachment to samsara. And if we don't contemplate impermanence, we will waste this opportunity of the precious human life. And if we don't contemplate impermanence, we will have to be born again within samsara and experience really extreme suffering.
Atenamgi pendi, tozom jebaroshina, ani midagba magombayina, kore chela shimbaji, yedangde kanasin jege yoresena.
So to explain these a little bit further, now, how is it that if we don't contemplate impermanence, that we will give rise to attachment and clinging?
Tawanang zotipin, midagbala, tewachigi mare, ani midagbala sambachigi mare, midagbala gombachigi mare, ta midagbala tini tesam gomsum machibi kiengi, ani karichagi resena, kurwe chötela tini, ningo yo marade, ningo yo batardu songdugre.
So if we don't study about the topic of impermanence and learn about it, hear teachings on it, and then we don't contemplate the topic, and then don't meditate on it, practice the meditation of impermanence, then what would happen is that although samsara has no purpose and no meaning, we will live our life thinking that it does have some real purpose and meaning, and we will behave as though it really does have a
Tandamanza nama kyangbe nengla tini, kurwa nyingbo mela nyingbo sungs. Ta midagba magomyundi, ani kurwe chela nyingbo yomarga, data nyingbo da oje gire samne ten nyingbo samdru. Nyingbo sambala tende, tini kari yongre, tanga rangzo de tini chötenza, kurwe di ngobo chötenza la chikdenge nawa chötenza tini shimba shugudwa.
So it's as is said in the calling the guru from afar. It says, although samsara has no meaning, I take it to have a real meaning. I take it to have some purpose. So this is how we find ourselves, that we consider that samsara has some real purpose and real meaning, and then we get involved in due to thinking that that samsara has some real purpose and meaning. We then get involved in all the activities of samsara and all the samsaric things in our life, and we then will get attached to those things and cling to those things.
When I was a kurwe chicken over to the shimba shugudwa, shugumunde. When I was a sail la shimba shugure, kuela shimba shugure, peshak la shimba shugure, Elana shigi no longer count of Maya shimba shugudwa.
And this is really the case, isn't it? Don't we all have a clinging and attachment to this, to the things of samsara? We have a clinging and attachment to food, and we have attachment to our clothes. We have attachment to money, and we have attachment to kind of this kind of material possessions in general.
Ndu yang to sono da yore, anso saja la shimba shugudo, kamba la shimba shugudo, pugi puma la shimba shugudo, kumugi pula shimba shugudo, pamaki pugu la shimba shugudo, pugu tsuki pamato la shimba shugudo, shugudwa.
We all have this attachment, don't we? We have attachment to places that we like, and we have attachment to our homes, and men and women have attachment to one another, right? And the parents have attachment to their children, and children have attachment to their parents. We all have this, don't we?
자, 근데 여기 아니 먼저 가르치기래 딱 대기 제도라 싹송 벨치보고도 견노롱.
And because we have that kind of attachment, what do? Well, we put a lot of effort into accumulating wealth and protecting that wealth and trying to make that wealth increase.
근데기 셴바디 마슈바이나 아니 먼저 싹송 벨치기 말와. 나만도 근데기 셴바 유디는 싹송 벨치. 다 싹송 벨와 텔 때네 때는 먼저 디기식 잡이요.
And it's because we have that attachment that we do that we accumulate and protect and try to increase our wealth. If we didn't have that attachment, we wouldn't have to do those things. We wouldn't have to accumulate wealth and protect it and try to increase it. And the purpose that we do that is for our own happiness. We want happiness. That's why we're doing it.
근데기 이fin에 가서 보래. 셴바슈 싹송 벨치온데 테니 텐데기 람라 도샤오데 테니 가리용 그레스나 테니 마랑 저기 셈발라 최체디게 삼바디 시달리기 말해.
So, given that we, when we're in the situation, we get attached, and due to that attachment, we get involved in accumulating and protecting and increasing wealth. In that way, we are kind of, when you're living in that mode, in that state of mind, we don't really pay much attention to the Dharma. We don't really have energy to get into the Dharma.
한당한 정도가 아니 갈색 와라다 셴바디 쇼온데 싹송 벨바치기 어디 테니 강아라 최체ing 디즈미도 최체ing 디즈베 등동을 샤선 당한 스탠드 디도 망고 용도 아직 된 탐나.
And it often happens, doesn't it, that we living in this mode where we're so attached to everything and then get involved with accumulating, protecting, and increasing our wealth. We will then say, oh, I don't really have much time to practice the Dharma. I just have so little time to do that. And this happens so much to people, doesn't it?
답된데기 담배 최체기 뒤서 매바이나 타카르치그래. 담배찌기 남기 주고디 가우트부도 남디 가우트부도.
And if we don't have time to practice the Dharma in that way, then what does that mean? It means that the gateway to enter the path of the Dharma is closed.
딱 담배찌기 남기 주고 가우트부도 가고만 세배 아니 가래 최식 제가 제나양 아니 최민나 길초도고 요래.
And when that gateway is closed in that way, what will happen is that although we have some desire to practice the Dharma, we're always kind of in a situation where we will end up doing things that are the non-Dharma or, against the Dharma.
가르세나 마랑 코르체나 신자침부여 젠텔라 네 되는 안도 삭송 벨체용데 인 대식 침부 차용데 딱 바로 바시라 최시 제가 전화야 되네 최도 봐 용네 다디시다 처음도 다마 진노롱지라 상나 야사레서는 최디 도네양 미게에 레나 바로 전주고 인디 최치면도 좋아 되는 차도.
So what will happen is that because of this attachment to the things of samsara, we will then be interested in accumulating, protecting, and increasing our wealth. And we will not have much interest in the Dharma, and we will get in a state of mind where we don't really consider the Dharma as important. Say, well, I don't really have time for that. Again, and not so important anymore. And then with that state of mind, we then end up doing a lot of non-virtue. And we will accumulate a lot of the 10 non-virtues and so on. And this is how we may end up doing non-Dharma activities or actions that are against the Dharma.
Patindragi teni karsigorada tambe chöje lamji jungoka ni chömen doa inde chaksonga ina teni jikdenji dewa shemba tela teni saksong pe chaba dewa devar chaba ina teni chungo dewa la chaksonga jikdengi dewa di chungo dewa chakbena chenpo dewa to misi songa chenpo dewa di tambe chöje lamla jugna chenpo dewa to girwa ni chöshindu jeba ina chenpo dewa to girwa patenzu torgidoa tenzu dorwa ina teni chenpo dewa to gumidoa.
Yeah. So in this kind of situation where the gateway into the Dharma is closed and we are doing things that are against the Dharma, we're doing a non-Dharmic or activities that are against the Dharma, that type of situation, we are attached to this kind of like a worldly pleasure, the pleasure of the world, and being attached to the pleasures of the world. This is actually a very small degree of pleasure. It's a very insignificant, a small degree of happiness. And they're just saying that by being attached to a insignificant pleasure, we are not able to attain the great happiness, the great pleasure. So because we're attached to these minor pleasures and minor happiness of the world, we're not able to practice the Dharma. And not being able to practice the Dharma, then we won't be able to attain this greater level of happiness.
Lama jamban na kariso togi chittu tendin lengi korosar ngana dumide to khoyogi chedo tene tendin sena dewa takpa yune dewa takpa detupin dewa di torde nekan nego ge dewa la tene ko tum de de wos
And this is actually what happens with us, isn't it? That we are attached to this smaller pleasure and happiness, this more insignificant pleasure and happiness. And due to that, we're not able to practice the Dharma. The doorway into the Dharma is closed for us in that type of situation. And we, by being attached to this insignificant happiness, type of happiness, we discard or throw away the greater happiness. And because with this attachment to the smaller happiness, the gateway to the Dharma is closed, and we can't enter the path of the Dharma. In order to attain the greater happiness, we need to enter the path of the Dharma and then practice the Dharma properly to attain that greater level of happiness. And this is also taught in the calling the Guru from afar, the prayer for calling the Guru from afar, when he says, for the sake of clothes and food, I throw away this really lasting goal, this lasting thing that I could accomplish. And so it means just for this temporary pleasures that you may get from clothes and food, things like that, then we throw away the greater goal, the greater objective, which is this the lasting happiness and the true happiness that comes from practicing the Dharma.
다 미다체와 마범나 미다체베기 메믹 이바데 아니 답주 추스스로 그래서 다 자주 추수수 두수대 컨트레스나 테니 다 코로나 심박기 코르치 추등어부 그런 거불을 심박기 테니 되게 제가 답을 남기주고가 담배치 최면도 드로인데 텐남라 땐데 아니 영망받기
So now the second the fault of not contemplating permanence is that we will waste our precious human life, waste the precious human life with the freedoms and advantages. So how does this work? Well, as we've just discussed, when we have this attachment and clinging to the thing of samsara, the gateway into the Dharma is closed to us. And the gateway of the Dharma being closed to us, instead of practicing the true Dharma, we end up practicing things that are against the Dharma. We end up doing things that are against the Dharma. And being in this state of doing things that are against the Dharma, what happens then is that we will generate within ourselves a lot of afflictions and negative emotions.
자 심바디 말랑라 예베 kapsula 테니 말랑서 도작선 기기 다 도작기 사회지만 도작대 테니 펠르 도작대 필용도 도작대 숙청부 차도
So, for example, when we have this kind of clinging and attachment to the thing of samsara, we will give rise to a desire. And this kind of desire will also increase and get stronger and stronger. In the end, it will be very strong for us.
테니 도작대 숙청부 차원데 테니 도작기 사기 모보 율텔라 테니 네바 치견라 소파 바르체 치견라 소파 여바이나 다텔리 시당 기기 시당 펠기레 시당 숙청부 차기레 테니 인디 차당 이부 기기도 하당보.
And then when we have such a strong desire, what will happen is that if there is anything that will get in the way of the object of our desire or harm the object of our desire, then we will give rise to anger towards anything that will do that. Any person or other thing that will try to obstruct the object, obstruct us from that object of desire, or get in the way of that object, harm that object. And we will get angry at that. And then also the anger will increase and eventually be very strong as well. So first of all, this is what happens. First of all, we give rise to desire, and then as a consequence of that, also anger follows.
근데 차방이 뭐 숙청부 차원데 차방이 미라만 저기 30땅을 말해.
And when we have such a strong anger and desire, it's very difficult for us to think about or to understand the faults of those emotions of anger and desire.
삼체 가야 마땅한 때네 테라테네 띠무 기기르 띠무 펠기르 띠무 숙청부 차기르 차방 마송 참아 제용을.
And because we don't understand the faults of anger and desire and the negative emotions, this is just increases and gives rise to more and more to ignorance. It's ignorance itself. So this is how desire, anger, and ignorance can come about for us.
딱 근들레 때인데 얘는 막 녀몽 바시양 얘는 막자 차도 세미나로 소바야 르바신도 깨겨.
And it's on the basis of these kind of basic emotions that many other afflictions and negative emotions will arise, such as pride, jealousy, stinginess, and so on. Many of these will come about.
자, 근데 이 녀몽 바나 때인데 나랑 속이 룽아 예숨데 다 미게와나 꿀기래.
And those afflictions and negative emotions, they will urge us on and cause us to engage in non-virtuous actions.
미게와나 꿀용디 틴 미게웨 레망고디 싹두고 미게웨 레망고디 제용디 다 다주르데 틴 갈수고 딱 추스스도 그래. 담배 추르비에 국밥 떡섬이 봐. 땡기 대화 틀에 고갑이 여봐. 인제 상황 니 가서 그래. 다저 데이팅 같다 룹트에 여봐 디트니 룹 미트에 쳐. 다저 chooses to draw us.
And with all those negative emotions going on, what will happen is that we will carry out non-virtuous actions and accumulate negative karma, and that negative karma will then lead us on that wrong path. And what will happen is, in that way, we waste the precious human life and waste the freedoms and advantages that we have obtained. And so what happens is that this opportunity that we have to accomplish the lasting happiness and the kind of a true happiness and liberation, this opportunity is wasted. And although we could have taken advantage of it, and it was a situation where we could have accomplished that lasting happiness, it becomes a situation where we are not able to do that.
다저 테메칭 아미잉데 다저 메바서 민 치다를 해서라 아미잉디 다 텐소레 녀몽바기 녀몽바텔레데네 레마이스 미게와나 폴 미게와라 폴녜텐 레마이스 미게와샤 상다기도 다딘 나미에르.
So it's also said that the thing that causes us to waste the freedoms and advantages is distraction, and the thing that causes us to lose those freedoms and advantages totally is death. So as far as distraction goes, this is when we get lost in distraction, we end up doing all kinds of non-virtuous actions with our body, speech, and mind, and just to remain in that kind of state.
야딘데기 다저 메바 장마장양서 치다 치와들의 숨어.
And so the thing that totally destroys, that causes us to lose the freedoms and advantages, is death.
인디유드니 초반냠낸 지금 속이니 치원마다 봐도 식침부 전국의 요래스 빕센티를 거기 다저럽대 메바소심 다저 메바소 살아이나 하나도 담배치르비에 백하고 자고로.
So this is why it is taught that those of us who want to practice the Dharma, it's very important for us to contemplate death and impermanence, because it is by not contemplating death and impermanence, we will waste this opportunity of the precious human life with the freedoms and advantages, and we will eventually lose it completely.
지금이라 가서 나 치와징의 릴라트 남지 참여 꼼꼼네 치매용매 제사신 다 치외 직바 버데 달송을 나 치월라 지금 릴라트 바힌 송을 아니 릴라테니 건 가르쳐를 남지 참여 꼼 답바 꼼니 대인서를 치기르서는 메다바 꼼 대인스 텔라테네 아니 나 치와징의 릴라트 남지 참여 꼼 치매용매 제사신 냠낸 전에 꼼테니 치와 메바기 제사신 송 다가 치월라 다금도 송을.
So this was also something that was spoken by Milarepa, that he said, first, fearing death, I went into the mountains. And then when I was in the mountains, I meditated constantly on the death and impermanence. And now, finally, I obtained the strongholds of the natural state, the innate reality, which is beyond death. And now I have totally given up any fear of death at that point. So first he was really afraid of dying. And so he's decided, since I'm afraid of dying, I'm going to the mountains and to practice the Dharma. And there he practiced the Dharma and contemplated impermanence and death for a long time, continually for a long time. And then finally he attained the accomplishment and was able to attain that strongholds that is beyond death of the natural state, the nature of reality. And at that point, he had no more fear of death. He had given up his fear of death.
처음이다 치와시 받더니 에미스바 가스고래 녹담 매버시 인데 다 이나레 바양 트레인 트르고 페브라 메와 처음이다 와콘그 하고네 일러 트레이닝 제로와 다나신 구루 컨디션을세나 샤그레 손지 칠라 파르니 소레 미마레레 도티컵서티니 시엘라 니르게르 도그레 소모 치다도 이츠 니번니블레그레스 에네 심버테장 유린 심버테장 중세메스 마테네 다 마시와치니 데기 삼바이 요나양 랑와요 마레소 치와네 비레소 에네 체디 링도 내장 네버치스 마 체름부 데나야 로모부 데나야 니마치 치장레스 치와는 도담메레소 근데 다저데 니마치 다 메바다다소 그래 치와게 메바소게 요데 테는 마생이나 삼로 땅거와 마생이나 삼네다네 다 비체지 밥이어바데 테는 얌스는 거래요
Yeah, Belarus was made.
네 그rum지소
So that's the thing, is that death and impermanence, it's impossible to stop it. There's no way to escape that situation or stop death. And this was also taught by Guru Rinpoche, and he said, every day you are moving closer to death. So it means it's never stopping that process, that kind of the time that we're going closer and closer to death all the time. That's never stopping. It's just keep on getting closer and closer. And then he said, even if you want to live, there's no way for you to avoid death. There's no way you can live, even if you want to. So even if you think to myself, well, I want to live some more, so I'll live a little longer. I don't need to die now. I don't want to die now, so I'll live longer. That won't work. You have no choice about it. You can't live longer if you want to. And also, even if we live a very long life, in the end, in any case, death will come. Even if we were able to avoid death up until old age, and we live a very long life, even at that time, death will come for us. So this is how it is that the death and impermanence will really destroy our opportunity that we have here, our precious human life with the freedoms and advantages. It will take it away just like that. So the point is that we have to practice the Dharma, make a lot of effort in practicing the Dharma before death takes away this opportunity.
가슴바테 테니 미탁번만 보바이나 테니 세치만 코로라 기에네 아니 동원 몽복 영화한테 컨달리스나.
And for the third fault of not contemplating impermanence, there is the fact that if we don't contemplate impermanence, we will continue to be reborn in samsara and experience suffering.
당한저 메타바마 범디 만저 코르철의 신사기양보다 신사기용디 되는 거랑저 탈벨람기 주고디 가도보다 최초면의 제도보다 그 최초면의 제용디 만한저디 되니 녀망바 레 싹용디 다체지마 코로나는 기보고요. 코로나는 기사위체라 되네 코로나이나 냐와라 차단기 동안 이다라 대공기 동안 민라 계도 민라 계가 나치지 동안 사민라 탑스지 동안 타다 치부 동에 동안에서 봐 요래선다 코로나 동안 먹고 요래서 먹고 시겨라 대상아 다 주름 부시 등한 동안 양도 대상아 용사 시도부터 저 미다바 먹음바 끼는 때는 다 데려 용
So when we get attached to the things of samsara and cling to them, then the doorway, the gateway to the Dharma is closed to us. And then after the gateway to the Dharma is closed to us, we end up living a life where we're doing things against the Dharma. And doing things against the Dharma, we give rise to afflictions, negative emotions, and karma, negative karma. And due to those afflictions and the negative karma, and the karma in general, we will be reborn again into samsara. And we will be reborn in hell with the sufferings of extreme heat and cold. And we'll be reborn as a preta, hungry ghost, with the suffering of extreme hunger and thirst. We may be reborn as an animal realm with the suffering of being enslaved and living in fear and having to eat one another and so on. And we'll be reborn in the human realm with the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And so maybe reborn as a demigod with the suffering of strife and conflict, or as a god with the suffering of having to fall having to fall out of that existence. So we will have to experience a lot of suffering for a long time in that way. And all of that is due to not contemplating impermanence.
근데 이제 되는 거랑 저기다 이따가 터선 거 제보고 열에 아니야 다 미다가 시야운데 dost니 마음다가데 되네 시야운데 미신 미다오신 미다가데 마시를 칭화들 뉴트멘도 세라서 같은 몽부세는 좀 말한도 다 정치부장도
Impermanence.
사실 담다 원인은 나타나도 쟁도 마셔서 죽었어도 근데 시바에는 되네 소소로 정치부장도 배연이 해도 가리여버도 정말 좀 never 가리여버도 정말 never.
So this is why we have to study on the topic of impermanence, receive teachings on it, then contemplate it, and then meditate on it, practice the meditation. But otherwise, if we have the attitude that we don't like this topic and we think, oh, I can't really do that, I don't want to listen to this teaching on impermanence, I don't want to study it, then this is really a huge loss. On the one hand, we will lose all the benefits that I've described, and we will have to experience all of this harm that I've just described now that comes from not contemplating impermanence.
저디엔지디 아닙니다. 범배된 미다고 마법의 예미리 시바니 sta 이바다 미다고 지들 염수된 손들어.
So now I've finished explaining the benefits of contemplating impermanence and the drawbacks or the harm that comes from not contemplating impermanence. And now to the third topic, which is the method or how we should contemplate impermanence.
지들 염수된 연수되나 가슴 호능에 저번이 된 남의 선대에서도 저번이 된 셰바를 가르스나 에네 구저당 답줄로 아니 저번이 된 랍기레스 인지 전들.
So I explained a while ago the just the I mentioned a while ago the kind of framework for the method of how to contemplate impermanence, and this framework is the two manners of practice or manners of application, and the three practices or ways to put into practice. And the two manners of application or manners of practice are, first of all, to do the contemplation with a sense of respect and care, and secondly, to do the practice continually. And this basically comes down to doing the practice with diligence.
가장 원도하니 주번님은 제도발라 드니 또외제도 보레스 또외제도 용토버 제발라 드니 포엔 삼부그레스 포엔 드니베 개버 제발라 드니 이미 공부그레스 다 이미들이 공데 야또 이미 공 포엔 공 텐토웨제도 기로아 또외제도 스타마 냠네디 최고도 삼발레마도 냠네 제요 말아 다 냠네 원네 레디 가서 또외제도 냠네 레디 가서 또외제도 냠네 가르치 그랬으나 근데 구조담 답적이 지금
So I also explained a while ago, in order to fully get into practicing the Dharma, we need joyful diligence. And in order to have a joyful diligence, what we need is to contemplate the benefits of the practice and contemplate the harm of not doing the practice. And this joyful diligence, basically, what you need for the joyful diligence in that practice of joyful diligence is, first of all, practicing with respect and care, and practicing continually.
저는 구절담 딱절디 아니 용사디 프로이진들의 용거로와 프로이진들스데 없어 나디면의 최고와 삼바시용 것도 내가 프로이진들스 아니 다 남는데라 나 주게라 가니 텔레 죽대에 봐 미타고 보면은 가니 미타고 주바텔라 미타고라 곰투밤 저와텔라 되는 구절스.
So in fact, the practicing with care and respect and practicing continually, these are a result of joyful diligence. So joyful diligence basically consists of this very strong intention. I really have to do this practice, and having that sense of joy and inspiration to practice. And then due to having that joyful diligence, you will take great care to do the practice, and you will have a great respect with how you do it. And then finally, you will also want to do the practice continually to a great degree.
그러나 미타바 콤발라 가신 프로신도 되는 미타바 콤발라 세리얼.
So, in brief, the way that we should contemplate impermanence is that we should have a great sense of joy and inspiration that we want to do this contemplation, and we should have our approach to doing the contemplation of permanence should approach it with a lot of respect and care of how we're doing it, with respect to how we're doing it. And we should also do the practice continually.
ini tafjor serna ini gashin toshin de chupasama sepe ini tuitam to ini mitawa chwa gom girma chwa sin gom toba yang kabol rega gom rega ma gom inde mai tapa gom toba la ini tafjor ser.
So yeah, that's the manner of practice which involves respect and care, is that we have a great joy and inspiration, and so we approach the practice with the respect and care with how we do it. And then on top of that is the matter of practice, which involves continuous practice. So what this means is that we have to do the practice continually and not take any breaks. Try to do it all the time as much as we can. We shouldn't do the practice for some time and then stop and then start to do it again and then stop again and so on. We have to do it continually. This is what is meant by the continuous practice, the second of these two manners of practice.
So it's in the Kiang, the Tening around so the Mitaba Comilla, Tukdrup Tang, Mitaba, any Kasako, Ngöndro Komtuba, and the little good.
So with this joyful diligence that I mentioned, if you have joyful diligence, this will allow us to really engage with the practice of contemplating impermanence fully, and it will also allow us to do the practice continually.
Inayang, Mitaba Gomba Samji, Mitafa Rangi Kula Kigi Rebes and a ticket to begin Yabayomar.
However, it's not the case that just from meditating on impermanence that one will necessarily attain the proper result, the full result of the practice of contemplating impermanence. So in order to attain the full result within ourselves, to kind of master the practice within ourselves, what we need is the three practices, the three ways of practicing. So because so this the three practices is actually the actual name is the three connected practices, the three practices that are connected. So the first one is to clear away the obstructions, which are negative actions and obscurations. And secondly, to gather the conducive factors, which is merit discernre, because so the second one is to gather the conducive factors, which are the accumulations of merit and wisdom. And then the third of these three combined practices is the proximate cause, or the immediate cause, the direct cause, which is to meditate on the object of meditation, contemplate the object of meditation. So for somebody to do this contemplation of impermanence, first of all, they need to have a slightly less, a kind of a low level of negative actions and obscurations. It's kind of negative karma. And secondly, they have to have some degree of merit and positive karma. If they don't have this a lower level of obscurations and negative actions and higher and some merit, they won't really be able to do the practice properly. And then finally, they have to understand the method of how to do the meditation.
Mitabo kumye kansa de dibanyo sonam tsering sa yona tene mitabo ge lam de nyamnin chetoba nyamnin cheba ina tene yurdo rangi yula ketubir.
So if the person that is doing this contemplation has a relatively small degree of obscurations and negative actions, and they have some degree of merit accumulated, then they will be able to attain the result of the meditation and have the meditation be successful relatively quickly.
Hemado mitabo fomba samji lam yabulo dogre sampe ngeba yoma harsena shiwaje be kawa ge sore harsena ta shigire se lam no mitabo homna ta shigire man de kibutan gore sabane zile girda yang ngeba mido koshi samdo ta shisa da man do ne mashinya ne kibutan godo lango.
Otherwise, if we don't have those conditions, it's not certain that just by contemplating impermanence, we will attain the proper result. For example, it's possible that we can think about impermanence and then have the attitude that, because I'm going to die, I may as well have as much pleasure now as I can, have as much fun as I can before I die, So it's possible people may think like that when they think about death. They think death is coming for me, and this impermanence is the reality, so there's not much time, so I just have to have as much fun and pleasure as I can. This is what is that can happen if we don't have these conditions in place.
Yang kashi ne ni se de zolope kange mangbuji yang pune mangbuji suna. Tanga shina taudare shisana ta kange de nyasa mare pune di ante bosa mare sa yang shigosare sambag tene ani dindele tarwe tabla zungidwa. Ya mitabo kumgidwa ina mitabo yang tabla lamla dugmidwa.
And another thing that can happen is that somebody may be going through a lot of problems and trouble, suffering, difficulties, or they may have accumulated a lot of debt. And then they may think about death, and they may welcome death and think, well, it's actually good that I die, better that I die as soon as possible, so that I can escape my difficulties, and also I won't have to worry about these debts anymore. That can happen to people. So these situations can come about from contemplating impermanence. People get these ideas from contemplating impermanence. But on the other hand, these people, those kind of people, they weren't able to enter the true path. That impermanence was not something that allowed them to enter the path properly.
자 딘데기 mitabo da ojela tene ngana onzo dikar sam dan olsha baina dela ta pendo shida yoma ta ngana onzo pendo yebe lega shiche ta mitabo.
So if we contemplate impermanence in that way, there's not much benefit for us. There's no use to do that. So for us, we have to contemplate impermanence such that it benefits us.
Pendo yeba soala jimzen number sum shebor mitabo khati kombaya na jimzen number sum de shebe kone. Hangbo tela ring du minde ba shebor. Ipa tela shimba do shebor. Sumba tela chima penje do gyuwachi kogo yor. Tesum samwe mitabo shikomba ina ta mitabo yabor. Thank you.
So in order for the contemplation of impermanence to benefit us, we need to do it with the 3 points in mind. First of all, we need to remember when we contemplate impermanence that we don't have much time to live. We don't have much time left here in this life, first of all. And second of all, we have to think that the best thing is to reduce our clinging and attachment. We have to contemplate impermanence so that it reduces our clinging and our attachment to this life. And then finally, we have to contemplate impermanence so that it becomes a way that we can help ourselves in the future, in our future lives, so that we can do what is beneficial for our future lives. If we use those three ways of contemplating, this is really the proper way to contemplate impermanence.
Ne ring do mine batela thmi ring bot negi mare chenyame ring bot negi mare nyungbo mendo samko.
So for the first of these three, that the fact that we don't have much time here, we have to contemplate. We're not going to stay here for very long. There's not much time left here. So in fact, thinking about the fact that there's not much time, there's actually not much purpose or meaning to this life.
Ne shemba do batela neba yebata.
And then the second point to reverse our clinging, eliminate our clinging and attachment, is to understand how much harm that clinging and attachment brings.
Neba yebati hamako ina tinamso shemba do marwa. Neba yebati habo ina tin shemba do.
If we don't understand the harm that comes from a clinging and attachment, then this can't really eliminate it. We can't get rid of it. But if we understand the harm that clinging and attachment will bring, then it's possible for us to get rid of it.
Chuma penje도 kirwade ani tambichuk 돌아서 땅고.
And for the third one, which is that we do something beneficial for us in the future, we do what is beneficial for us in the future lives, in our future lives, that has to do with understanding the Dharma, the benefits of practicing the Dharma.
균진 대숨단 덴베고네 아니 미타바곤바이나 다 미타바 양파반지도 차그래.
So if we contemplate impermanence with these three reasons, these 3 points in mind, then this will become the really perfect, really proper contemplation of impermanence.
하든지 대숨단 덴바데 야고 용토 버체야 발라 테니 라면 수이라도아 테니 디트 장고고 요레 초양 디트 사보고 요레 아니 미타바디 냠낸데 저고 요.
And so to do that contemplation with those 3 reasons, those 3 points, we then need to have the practice involving the 3 combined practices, the 3 combination of 3 practices, you can say, which are clearing away the obstruction of negative actions and obscurations, and gathering the conducive factors, which are the accumulations, and meditating, contemplating the object of meditation.
미타바기 최제 숨당 라멘 숨된조 인바신도 토토바이나 테니 카리오데스나 미닥시베 닝보메바시에 숨 미다바시양도 닝보메바시에 미닥시베 동아리 인바시에 숨 미다바시양도 다 동아리 인바시에 그래 숨.
So if we do this practice with those 3 combined practices and the 3 reasons, the 3 points, those 3 points I mentioned, then when we contemplate impermanence, we will understand fully that there is no purpose and no meaning to samsara. And furthermore, we will understand, truly understand the suffering of samsara.
네, 명보메바시에베 교와기에 숨. 당아랑 좀 이제 될 내가 망보 제 참막하임 키레메바 하고나 테니 교와기로. Yingbu haya meba hakuwa ina, kiwa jigira, yingbu meba shibi, kiwa kies. Ni tungali yimbar shibi, ngejung kies. Tungali yimba hakuna, kurwadi tungali yimba hakuna. O ta ngati le tarbu gitu sambagi ngejung kigira.
And so then when we understand there's no meaning to samsara in that way, through understanding there's no meaning, no purpose to samsara, we will have a sense of weariness. Because when we think about our samsaric life in that way, there's no real purpose, no real meaning. I'm making all this effort and going through all this trouble, but in the end, it doesn't do anything for me. It serves no purpose. Then we will get this sense of weariness with the samsara. And then when we understand that samsara is suffering, we will have that true understanding of suffering, and that's this just the nature of samsara is this suffering and unhappiness. Then this will give rise to renunciation. We will have the resolve to free ourselves from samsara and have that renunciation.
Ni nganzo mitaba kombala nganzo tumbu dibati stabu doa. Ni mitaba kombala sibala nganzo tini cho sanana ti sabu doa ya. Ta sangsarwe jela ta nganzo mitaba nyamne chebo gora ta. Ta mitaba shebati ane gyurwa jenjel kokor. Gyurwa washilo.
Because the gyurwa jen is shegure.
Mitaba serwate gyurwa na hawo. Gyurwa washilo mitaba segora. Ni mitaba, tab mitaba. Gyurwa jen.
So then, as I have explained, we need, first of all, to clear away the obscurations and negative actions to contemplate impermanence. And we need to accumulate merit to contemplate impermanence. And finally, we need to understand how to contemplate that object of meditation, the object of meditation being impermanence. So first of all, one aspect of the how to contemplate impermanence is that it is to understand the changing nature of our life, of a samsara. It is never really stable. It can never really remain constant and stable.
Ta mitaba tena teni pat ye yoma ten chawa mitaba sheba jita rakban mitaba se nye.
And if we divide the impermanence into different types of impermanence, there are two types: the subtle impermanence and the coarse impermanence.
Ta chawa mitaba tenzo anzo susu jiwa namji teni chamal ba namji tokwa tos kawa yor. Ta kawa yor di kapshi karichigo re jao kanwa namli songyo. Di jinjo namji songyo tenzo la teni katang tenje tenzo la teni lungdang rikbeto ne ane tashin jeba shik jera shetubire. Ten mayi na teni pakba sal lebe kansa tenzo di toktubire.
So as far as the subtle level of impermanence, this is difficult to understand for ordinary people. So what we can do as ordinary people to try to understand it is to contemplate the words of the victorious ones, of the Buddhas, and to contemplate the words of their disciples, their followers, and read the treatises that they wrote and so on, and use our reasoning and go through all the discussions on the subtle impermanence, and then we will be able to understand it. And then otherwise, for people who are not ordinary, so to speak, or on the levels of realization, the bodhisattva levels, they can realize it directly.
Madam so so to my battle he me has all the turn the double day nam song talk to be the cowboy of it. Just remember the carson. David Tola Surte told me that Sunday Jumbo chat and doing a tolar table. Loma de San.
So it's difficult for us as ordinary people to really understand and fully comprehend the subtle impermanence. And then there's a verse that was also taught by Milarepa, and he said, "The tikang damtsur
Do roots in the duba, dube top, dube troll, Surte fe, troll me that Sunday Jumbo jazz. Troll, roots in the disag of Trobo denzo, and the mitapa, Sunday Jumbo Nashirindus, Sona Tonga Humbo denzo, Sonjaga legere, Katar dog.
He said, our companions that we accompany and we come together with our companions. They are, that companionship is impermanent, just like a market, like a kind of, like a marketplace, And so you should not put all of your kind of the reliance. You shouldn't rely totally on those that type of companionship, which is impermanent. So when people come together as companions, it's like a market. It means this kind of market where people just meet for the day and sell things, and people come to buy things, and then at the end of the day or after some time, they separate and go their separate ways. So that is the
Dune, Talwar, maybe, Loma Geson. Sur Dusona, Talwa in Talwa reduce, Talwa indi, any Talja de Loma, Devomindos and Devomindos and the same joke do Shevarapush.
Yeah, so he uses that analogy of the marketplace for our companions. And then the final line says, don't rely on this companionship, which is something that comes together and then is certain to part with those companions. So it's all that if you put too much stock in that kind of companionship, which is certain to end, then all that will happen is you'll be disappointed and sad.
Garabatawina, Titawulayam, Donasiki, once a Titawula Donasiminda, Benanganzo, Pama, Pingat, and the Sama, some Gabutsigdwa. Now, Gabutsigmato, Telejosigimara, Teledonsigimara. Ne Quantin Mata. So Tomi on Gasama, the Tungalim Bahagoni, Tawa Tungalim Bahagoni, and it's Sama Tale in Bahagoni. Talwa the Kawalatin Chung down, Zombalatin Chuma in Bahago. And then indeed, Zomba the Koran and it Tongalkura, G chapter, and it common but the Tawa Tungal the Sigdo. And they did the total window.
So for somebody like Milarepa, he really understood that, and therefore he viewed these kind of things as they are, as suffering. He viewed this kind of companionship actually as suffering. But we are not like that, are we? We really we view these relationships as being generally happy things, and when we get together with our friends and our family and so on, we consider it to be a very good thing and a happy thing. But for somebody like Milarepa, he was able to see that somebody like that is able to see that this is actually suffering. Its nature is actually suffering on the fundamental level, and because when we get together with people, eventually we have to part with them, and there's other kinds of suffering coming along the way as well. And when we part with them, especially that is the suffering. And so what somebody like Milarepa was able to understand is that you can look to what is the cause of that suffering actually, and the cause of that suffering of parting is the meeting in the first place, of getting together with the person in the first place. So somebody like him is able to understand that and see that, fully realize it, but we cannot do that at this time. So in this way, Milarepa has he contemplated the subtle level of impermanence and realized the suffering that goes along with that. But we can't really understand that. We always think that it's a very nice thing, happy thing to get along with our parents and family and so on. And we don't see that that those relationships themselves is actually suffering, and that it's by nature changeable. But it's these people that are this on the, let's say, that noble people that are on these bodhisattva levels of realization, they can see that. Sangye make them tawala to share bani to my six on Sangye la ne mikla penna mi mikla pusoina nam sang de tu maro nam sang ko hago chorwa de hagura ne de imbalani and to changing over to the corner but to my sigre la penna mikla pusoina nashi. So there's another saying that the Buddha is able to see that all conditioned things are suffering, or he's able to see the suffering inherent in the conditions, the nature of conditioned things, just as a hair in your eye. So if you get a hair stuck in your eye, like your eyelash or some hair is stuck on your eyeball, then it's very like a irritating, painful thing. So the same way, the Buddha is able to see the subtle level of suffering, the subtle level of impermanence, and the suffering of impermanence. These kinds of people, they view all the phenomena of samsara, whatever phenomena is in samsara, all of it is actually of the nature of suffering and impermanence for them. That being tawa, and Chibal Tiltawana, Zelani Pumito Sore. Mahanza Sasajiba Chibabu Majeres, and Navakana Pushana, Pukitsora de Limara, we in the Menahauber. Tungal the Mehid encourage you over to Jidin, the Tungal Shida me Hashida Komari, or the Tawa to talk to a cowboy. So these kind of people with that kind of realization, they can see the subtle impermanence and the subtle level of suffering. They can see that very clearly. But as for us, it's said that the ordinary people experience this kind of suffering, they don't have a real understanding of this suffering or perception of this suffering, just as if you were to place a hair on the palm of their hand. So we don't really, we don't see these levels of suffering. We can't penetrate into those levels of suffering, understanding of those levels of suffering. Just like if you put a hair on the palm of your hand, you don't really feel it. Yeah, if you don't look at it, you wouldn't even know if it's there or not. That's you shouldn't do So here the time has run out, so we're going to do the dedication aspiration.
Bye-bye, everybody. Please take care. Practice well. I hope you are all good doing practice. Yeah. Thank you so much.